Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Sharon Ojala, and today I want to show you how to make a small decorative pumpkin. This is actually the same pattern I just uploaded last week to my blog, and here on my YouTube channel I showed you how to do the grumpy pumpkin face. So it's the same pattern, but you can choose to make the grumpy pumpkin, or you can just choose to make a decorative pumpkin for your table or your mantelpiece. So the video that you're watching right now is for the absolute beginner. I'm going to walk you through every row of the pumpkin. I'm going to show you how to stuff and shape it, how to add the lines, and how to sew the stem in place. Oh, and at the end I also show you how to make the stem as well. So there's a free pattern that you can be printed off on my blog, and that is popping up on your screen there, that little iCard. That will stay there for the duration of the video. You don't have to click it right now. Once you get to the written pattern, you're going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll find the green print friendly button. In the written pattern I give you the size, I give you the video links, how to print the pattern, the supplies list. I also tell you how to read the rows, which I'm going to explain in this video as well, and of course the pumpkin pattern itself. To make my little pumpkin I used a worsted weight acrylic yarn. This is Red Heart Comfort yarn. If you are in the UK, the closest to this yarn is called Aran. And I used two different colors, one for the pumpkin and one for the stem. With that yarn I used a 4mm hook. I used a blunt end yarn needle for sewing. This is a size 13, you don't need the exact same size. I find blunt ends work really well when sewing amigurumis together. A pair of scissors. And a small amount of stuffing. I'm using 100% polyester stuffing. This is very soft and very springy, and it doesn't clump up when I'm sewing through it, so you want to find something similar. On the bag it says ideal for toys and pillows. Alright my friends, we're going to get started. We do make the stems separately, and that's done towards the end of this video. At the beginning of this video we're going to start at the top of the pumpkin and we're going to work our way down. And we're going to do everything together, so grab your crochet hooks and let's get started. Row 1 is a loop with 6 stitches. I'm going to show you my favorite method of getting this loop. It's called the magic ring. It's a nice neat way of starting amigurumi. If you have troubles with the magic ring and you just can't get it right, don't panic. There's an alternate way of starting this ring, and that should be popping up on your screen. You don't need to click that right now. It will stay there for the duration of this video. Okay, so I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to wrap the shorter yarn tail around these two fingers twice. And you'll see that it's going over my finger, this finger here, and then I'm going to wrap that shorter yarn tail around those two fingers twice. I'm going to hold the yarn tail in between my pinky and my thumb, then hold the working yarn in between my pinky and my thumb. Now I need to make a slip knot. I'm going to go through. I'm going to grab this yarn in the back and pull it underneath these two strings. Now I have a loop on my hook. I'm going to grab the yarn one more time and pull it underneath that loop on my hook. And there, my slip knot has been made. I can take it off my fingers and get ready to crochet on. Now we're going to put 6 single crochets into this ring. We're going to go through the center of the ring every time we go through. We're going to grab this yarn and pull it through the ring. And we're going to do that 6 times. Go through, grab the yarn and pull it through the ring. Now you have 2 loops on your hook. Pull the yarn through those 2 loops. And there was 1 single crochet. We're going to repeat that 5 more times. Going through, grab the yarn and pull it through the ring. Pull the yarn through those 2 loops on your hook. And there was a second single crochet. Now we're going to do that 4 more times. There was a third. Fourth. Fifth. And last time. Sixth. There was 6 single crochets on the ring. You can see the V's of each stitch going down the ring. There should be 6 of those. Now we need to close up the ring. Before we do that, find that starting yarn tail. If it's in the middle of these or tangled up there at all, just pull it out. There we go. Now we're going to close up the ring, so we're going to hold on to that slip knot with our finger and our thumb. And we're going to pull up one of these strings from our finger and our thumb. Pull it up. It wasn't that one, so I know it's the next one. Pulling upwards. to close up that ring. Now we have to get rid of this loop, so we're going to pull on the starting yarn tail. I like to give it a little wiggle, and there's our loop with 6 stitches. The last stitch to count is underneath this loop here, and you can see the V. And the first one to count is in front of the starting yarn tail. Turn it towards you, you can see the V. And there'll be 6 of those V's going around, and the last one, like I said, is underneath this loop. Each stitch has 2 loops in it. You can clearly see them there. So when you push through, make sure you have both loops of that stitch on top of your hook. And the starting yarn tail, you can cut it up a bit shorter. Don't cut it up too short though, or you can just leave it hanging and we'll tuck it into the pumpkin as we can get further into the pattern, or you can crochet around it to hide it. So when you go through, you can just hold it over your hook and crochet around it, and you can get rid of it that way. I'm just going to leave mine hanging there for this row. Row 2 is 2 single crochets in each one of those 6 stitches. So I'm not going to add a marker, I'm just going to count out loud with you, and we're going to do this whole row together. 2 single crochets in each one of those 6 stitches. So I'm pushing through, making sure I have 2 loops of that stitch on top of my hook. Grab the yarn, pull it through. I have 2 loops, pull the yarn through. And there was 1 single crochet in the first stitch. Now I'm going to go back in the same stitch I was just in and put another one. And there was 2. Now going into the second stitch and putting 2 single crochets. There was 1, going back in that same stitch, and there's 2. Going into the third one now. 1, going back in, and there's 2. Going into the fourth. 1, and back in, there's 2. And if I'm going too fast, just pause the video and hit play again when you're ready to carry on. Going into the fifth, there's 1 and 2. And now last stitch of the row, number 6. 1 and 2. And that's the end of row 2, and now we have 12 stitches around. We're going to add a marker. I'm just going to pull out my last stitch so I don't lose it. I'm just going to leave it hanging. I'm going to go through that last stitch I just put in, and I'm going to use a piece of yarn of a different color. You can do the same thing if you'd like to. Just note that this could get pulled out along the way and you could lose your spot. I'm just going to pull it through, pulling one strand through and leave the other strand hanging. And I'm going to move this marker at the end of every row. Okay, now I'm going to show you the written pattern. We just finished row 2. We put 2 single crochets in each one of those 6 stitches, and now we have 12 stitches around. Carrying on to row 3, 1 single crochet in the first, then 2 single crochets into the second stitch. We're going to repeat that all the way around, and at the end of the row we'll have 18 stitches. So 1 single crochet in the first, then 2 single crochets into that second stitch, and then we repeat that. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. 1, 2, 1, 2, all the way around. When you land on the marker, you'll be putting in 2 single crochets. So let's do this row together. 1 single crochet in the first, and now 2 single crochets into that second stitch, and now we're going to repeat that. 1 single crochet in the first, and by first I mean the first stitch after the hook. 1 single crochet in the first, and then 2 single crochets into the second stitch. I'm going to speed it up, just repeating 1, 2, 1, 2. Coming to the end, 1 single crochet in the first, and now 2 is going to land on that marker, so I'll pull it out and put in 2 single crochets. That's the end of row 3, and now we have 18 stitches around, and you can see the piece is starting to fold up on itself, and that's totally normal. This is the right side, and this is the wrong side. If you keep working and you don't stop and straighten it out, it will keep folding up, and pretty soon you'll be working inside out. So just take a minute to stop and turn it right side. There we go, we're working on the right side again. Move your marker, Row 4, 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, then 2 single crochets in the next stitch. At the end of that row we'll have 24 stitches around. So just like the pattern said, 1 single crochet in the first 2 stitches, then 2 single crochets into the third, and repeat all the way around. And now 2 into that third stitch. Keep repeating, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. Coming to the end, 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and 2 single crochets is going to land on that marker, so I'll pull it out. And we're finished row 4, and now we have 24 stitches around. So if you wanted to do a stitch count, you could totally do that. Just pull out your last stitch so you don't lose it. And the first one to count is in front of this knot. You can see the V. Count all the way around, and the last one to count is underneath this big loop. And you can see the V. And you should have 24 of those going around. So let's take a look at the written pattern, and then I'm going to leave you on your own for a little while. We just finished row 4, and we have 24 stitches around. Row 5, 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches, then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. Repeat all the way around. Then you should have 28 stitches at the end of that row. Row 6 to 7, 1 single crochet in each stitch for 2 rows. Just remember to move your marker at the end of every row. And you can see row 8, it's the same thing that we've been doing up here, it's just different numbers. Row 8, 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, then 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And then you repeat that all the way around. At the end of that row you'll have 35 stitches. Rows 9 through 12, 1 single crochet in each one of those 35 stitches for 4 rows. If you don't want to count the rows, then just put a little notch on your pattern with a pen each time you move your marker. So you should have 4 notches by the time you're done, and then you're going to hit play again on the video and we'll meet back here, and I'm going to show you how to decrease the rows. So go ahead and pause the video, and I'll meet you back here at the end of row 12, and we'll do row 13 together. Welcome back. We're at the end of row 12, and now we're ready to move on to row 13, where we're going to decrease the round, and we're going to crochet stitches together. And there's only 4 rows left, so we're almost there. Row 13 is 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then we're going to crochet the next 2 stitches together. We're going to turn 2 stitches into 1. And there's 2 ways to decrease. I'm going to show you both ways in this row. First, let's put 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And now we're going to crochet 2 together, go through like you normally would, grab your yarn, pull it through. Leave that loop on your hook and go into the next stitch. Pull the yarn through. Now you have 3 loops on your hook. Grab your yarn and pull it through all 3 loops. And you've just crocheted 2 together, you turn 2 stitches into 1. Now some of you, as you're decreasing, are going to start seeing gaps in your work, and that's totally normal. I never see them, and a lot of people don't, but some do, and that causes some distress. So I'm going to show you how to eliminate that. We can eliminate those gaps by using the invisible decrease. So we basically do the same thing, 1 single crochet in the next 3. And now we're going to crochet the next 2 together, but this time we're going to choose either the front loop, that's the one closest to you, or the back loop, that's the one furthest from you. Either one of those will work. Let's choose the front loop. So now we're going to crochet 2 together, and we're going to do it in the front loops only. Pull the yarn through, leave that loop on your hook, and go into the next front loop. Pull the yarn through. Now you have 3 loops, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And you just decreased, you turn 2 stitches into 1. So only worry about the invisible decrease if you start seeing gaps. If you don't see gaps in your work, just go through both loops. I just made it around. Now I'm going to finish off this row, 1 single crochet in the next 3, and then 2 together, and you see it's going to land on the marker, so I'm going to pull that out. And we finished row 13, and now we have 28 stitches around. Let's move our marker So row 14 is basically the same thing, except for we're going to put one single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then crochet 2 together. Repeat all the way around. When you land on the marker, you should be crocheting 2 stitches together. I just finished row 14 and now I have 21 stitches around. Row 15, we're going to decrease again, 1 single crochet in the first and then 2 together, and then repeat all the way around. When you land on the marker, you should be crocheting 2 stitches together. So my advice for this row is just keep your tension fairly consistent, and you want a tighter tension so you don't get gaps as you're working. 1 single crochet in the next stitch and then 2 together. And now just repeat that all the way around. I'll finish row 15 and now we have 14 stitches around, and this is where we stuff the pumpkin. So pull out your last stitch and leave a nice big loop like that hanging so you don't lose it as you're stuffing your pumpkin. And we're just going to stuff the majority in here because we're going to put more in after the next row. And that's it. I just want the majority in there. Now I'm going to continue on. So this is the last row that we're doing. We're almost done. Row 16, do not add a marker. 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then 2 together, and repeat that sequence 4 times. So for this one, I suggest squeezing your pumpkin together, just like this, and it'll make it easier to crochet around because the hole is a bit smaller, and now that we have stuffing in there, we don't want to pull the stuffing through. So just squeeze it together, and let's do this row together. 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and now 2 stitches together, now we're going to repeat that 3 more times. 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, see how I'm moving it around? I'm spinning the bottom so it makes it easier for me to get in there, and 2 together. We're going to repeat that 2 more times. 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and now 2 together, and last one for this row, 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and 2 stitches together, and we are done. So now we can finish off. You want to leave a nice long tail. I would give it at least a foot or more. We're going to use this tail to shape our pumpkin when we're done. We're going to pull the yarn tail through that loop, bring it down to about there, and then pull tight. We're going to stuff the pumpkin some more, but first we're going to weave in and out of these remaining stitches, so we need our yarn needle. Here's my needle. Now I'm just going to bend over the end of the yarn. I'm going to push the bend through. This makes it a little bit easier to get in there. Now we're going to weave in and out of these remaining stitches. So going through, and then out. You can go like this, in and out, all the way around. Back to where you started. Before we pull on that to close the gap, let's stuff and shape our pumpkin some more. So you want to make sure you get stuffing all around in this area, so you're going to use your finger to push it around inside there. And if you can't get the stuffing through this hole, then use a back end of a pencil works, or a stuffing stick, or a chopstick, whatever you have on hand. Okay, I'm going to stick my fingers in there and push the stuffing into the sides around here. I think that's looking pretty good. Now I can pull on this yarn tail, pull it to close up that gap. We need to knot it off to hold that gap closed. So just bring it through, down to about there, and then pull tight. And that should knot it off. And if it hasn't knotted it off, then just go through again, anywhere close by. go through that loop and pull tight. Depending on the pumpkin that you're making, if you are making the grumpy pumpkin, then you'll only do 4 separator lines, and that's because we add the face there. If you're doing a decorative pumpkin for your mantle or table, you can add more. You can add 6 or 8 of them. These ones I've put in 8. So the choice is totally up to you. So when you do your first line, we're going to go through the bottom first and then come out the top. And I do it that way because if you wrap it around and go down this way, I'll show you something, and bring it out, it lets go. You pull this down and you can see how it lets go there. So you would have to hold it with your fingers, hold it there, and then put the other line in. But if you go in from the bottom to the top, you don't have to hold it. It holds its own shape. So I'll show you. Now going from the bottom to the top, and then wrapping around and going through the bottom out the top again. Once you pull this, and I do help when I'm pulling, I do push it down with my fingers. See how it holds the shape? So it just makes your life a little bit easier. So I would go from the bottom to the top first, and then the second line I put in, I just go directly across, wrap around, and pull. And now I'm going to do the third one. The third one goes in between these two, right in the center, and you can help it by putting it in the right place before pulling. So if you are making the grumpy pumpkin, you're now done, and you can just knot off. But if you're going to make the other lines, then you just continue on making them. So I would just go in between each of those 4 separator lines. So there we go. Once you're done putting your lines in, just bring the yarn tail down and come out. Don't come out through the center because it can be hard to knot off there. Come out through the side somewhere where it's a little bit more comfortable to work in, and then knot off. Just wrap around a stitch post, pull it tight, and if you think it didn't knot off, then you can do it again. Just go through that loop and pull tight. And now you can just bring it through anywhere, and then pull on it slightly and cut. So let's make this stem, and you can make these longer or shorter. In my grumpy pumpkin pattern, I made them stackable, so if you make them stackable, then you only do 2 rows of single crochet, so that other pumpkin can fit on top of it. If you're not doing stackable ones, then you can do a longer stem. So I'll show you how to get started. We're going to start with a ring with 5 stitches. This is the same way we started the pumpkin when we did the ring with 6 stitches. Instead, we're going to put 5. So I'm not going to go super slow because we've already gone over this once, and if you need more help with it, then you just review the first one we've done. Now I'm going to put 5 stitches into this ring. I should have said 5 single crochets. I just put 5 single crochets into that ring, and I'm going to close it up. So like I said, you can do any length that you want to. For the stackable one, we'll be doing 2 rows of single crochets. So 1 single crochet in each one of those 5 stitches for 2 rows. So let's do it together. Now this one's a little bit more awkward because it's so small to hang on to. So just take your time, and the piece will start folding up on itself pretty fast. And there was a single crochet in the second. You can see it's already starting to fold up. It's okay. We're going to straighten that out in a minute. There was a single crochet in the third. I'm going into the fourth now. Make sure you're going through both loops of the stitch every time you go through. And then we're going to do one more, and then we're going to flip it right side. And there's the 5th one there. And if you can't see it, pull your stitches back and look for the V. And there we go, that ends row 2. And we still have 5 stitches around. We can stop and turn it. Push where that starting yarn tail is coming out of inward. And there we go. I've just flipped it. If you have troubles, you can also use the back end of your hook. Now this starting yarn tail, I'm going to cut that up just a little bit longer than the stem, and then I'm going to push it inside. Now it's out of my way. I'll go ahead and put another row of single crochets. And take your time. These smaller tubes are super hard to work in if you're not used to crochet. I always tell people just to relax, don't hold everything so tight, and look for that next bee. There it is. Go underneath it, and there was 2. Three. 4. And 5. And I'm going to stop here. Like I said, you can keep going and make it longer if you'd like to. I'm just going to finish off. Leave a tail for sewing. You're going to use this tail to sew the stem to the pumpkin. Pull the yarn tail through there, pull it down to about there, and then pull tight. Now this is pretty fast. There's not too much involved with this. I've threaded my yarn needle. I'm just going to go through the top of the pumpkin, right down the center, and out the bottom, and pull it. Now I'm going to go right back in where I came out of, and up, and I'll bring the needle through the bottom edge, going from the inside of that stem. Can you see what I'm doing there? I just helped my stitch over top that needle. Bring it through, and pull. And I'm going to bring my needle right back down the center again, and out the bottom, and that should pull the stem into place. And there we go. Now that's pretty much sewn in. The short stems sometimes take a little extra stitch just to bring the bottom nice and tidy into the pumpkin, but if it looks like this and you can't pull it up, then that's done. Now I'm going to go right back through the same stitch hole I came out of, and I'm going to come up right through the center of the stem, bring it through, and knot off anywhere. Bring it through the stem to the other side. Alright my friends, that brings us to the end of this video. If you wanted to do the face for your pumpkin, then you'll be clicking that link that's popping up somewhere on your screen. And over there I'll show you how to do the entire face and how to sew things together. If you have just made a decorative pumpkin for your table or your mantel, it would sure be fun for me to see it. I would love for you to post pictures on my Facebook page, Amigurumi Freely. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you super soon.